Good evening to you and welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Bongi Wazwani, standing in for Clement Manyathela. What a day. Floyd Shivambu reveals what he calls the real reason behind his axing as the Secretary General of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party. We speak to analysts Sandile Swana and Professor Tuleho Matebesi. The IEC, remember, is holding a symposium to look deeper at the issues around political party funding. Vice Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Janet Love, will join us for that conversation. The Higher Education Minister, Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, continues to be in the spotlight. Tsepo Low from the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education will join us, and we'll end off the show with the latest following the devastating floods in the Eastern Cape with Cocta MEC Zolile Williams. But first, my comment. Now, Floyd Shivambu has broken his silence about the developments within the MK party. Perhaps before we get into the reasons why he needed to speak, let's look at this moment that others view as the one that appears to have sealed his fate within the party.
If we have one of us, ophumeceleni asimncengi. Let me just tell you, abantu sebeke baba Secretary General kule sebe u7 manje. Kuba sidlali. Noma ngabe uzazi ukuthi umkhulu uyathandwa, uyikho konke, we don't care. We talk about our party. Laba bala kule party abathuma bebona umuntu engasebenzi sikhuluma lesazi ukuthi kwenze njani noma eneyinkinga noma onile ebese sithi awusuke akekho umuntu odala ukuthi uyohlala esikhundleni kuyozangena ezulwini ayikho lonto akuyona indaba yakho. If you don't know ozubuza ukuthi kwenze njani, kunabantu abaza bathi bafuna ukulokhuza uprotesta ngoba sithatha idecision ethile kusho ukuthi ayikakheki le party le. But
Shivambu claims this is the reason why he was sacked as from an office that is often seen as the engine of any political organization.
Another fake report was presented which claims to be WhatsApp conversations between me and someone else where I'm reported to be saying that, yeah, I'm going to use Parliament now to take over the party. And I've got money from Stellenbosch who are going to take over the party through Parliament. They are taking me closer to where we're going to take power. And as a result, a decision was taken which was not yet communicated that even this thing of Parliament must not happen. In fact, the former Secretary General, which is myself, must be expelled from the organization. A letter was written and was put in the briefcase of the President, who said that he's going to dispatch it as and when he feels like to discontinue my membership of Umkhonto weSizwe.
And remember, Shivambu started off with saying that there was a fake intelligence report, which was also suggesting that, in fact, he wanted to take power and overthrow the former president, who's now the president of the MK party, that is Jacob Zuma. And this is not the first time that we're hearing of a fake intelligence report around the name of former President Jacob Zuma. Remember this moment.
This is the so-called intelligence report. This is the so-called intelligence report which said that, amongst others, the two of us and the Director General are involved in this massive conspiracy to undermine the economy of this country. And if you read this, this is absolute nonsense. This is not the basis upon which you fire, inverted commas, or released from their responsibilities, which are a more polite way, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, of saying it, a Minister of Finance and a Deputy Minister of Finance.
Now, if you've forgotten what this moment is, right, it was in 2017 when the late former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and his then Deputy Mcebisi Jonas were removed from their positions, and we know how that story developed over years. Oh, before I go, here's another moment that might feel like deja vu.
I will be a member of the ANC until I die.
And we're here now.
I have not resigned from Mkhonto's seat, and I will never resign from Mkhonto's seat. I'm a member of Mkhonto's seat.
Your head spinning yet? I don't blame you. With all these developments within the MK party, one wonders what its members and voters are in fact thinking. Do you think Shivambu should form his own political party after the consultation process concludes? How should the MK party voters and its supporters react to this plot twist? Better yet, how are you processing these developments? So do share your thoughts with us by sending us a WhatsApp voice note to 078-459-1897. Remember, tell us your name and where you are sending the voice note from, and please try to keep it at 30 seconds, or you can send us an X on Face the Nation SA. All right, we stay with this particular story. We speak to sociologist from the University of the Free State, Professor Stulego Matebesi, and political and governance analyst Sandile Swana, who are joining us to unpack these developments around Floyd Shivambu a little further. Very good evening to you and both for your time. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to start with you, Prof. Matebesi. Some say that the writing was always on the wall. Was it?
Yes, most definitely. If you look, and good evening, Bongo, and good evening to your viewers and my fellow panelists. If you look at a pronouncement that have been made by Floyd's former party member and leader, Julius Malema, to say South Africans should not be surprised that Floyd will, and those who have left the EFF will encounter problems. But also over the past couple of months, some serious allegations about Floyd's management style and all that, conflict with Zuma's daughter and all that. So this was bound to happen, but very surprising that today actually huge indication that Floyd have already decided to form his own party.
Mr. Swana, when you look at the posture of Floyd Shivambu today, is it of a man who is truly going to be consulting the South Africans that he says he wants to consult, or is it a man who's already made up his mind about forming this political party?
Thank you, Bongiwe. Indeed, I think Floyd is on a recruitment drive. The names that Floyd listed there are widely spread geographically in the country. I know some of the names. So he has actually done a lot of work across the provinces. So Floyd has mobilized funds, he has mobilized transportation, he has mobilized all sorts of things. This so-called consultation is a strong recruitment drive. It's a launch.
And I'm going to stay with you because this is not the first time, right? We hear of what appears to be touted as a fake intelligence report around the name of the former president, now the leader of the MK party. What does this tell us?
Some of us predicted this thing, and we warned the nation that the chaos that we saw during the tenure of the presidency of Jacob Zuma, you are going to see it in MK, and it has a good likelihood of spilling into the operations of MK in Parliament. And this is evidence of some of the methods. The character of Jacob Zuma is manifesting itself in the MK party, how he runs the MK. And we had seen that in how he ran the ANC and how he ran the state. So there's nothing new here. It's a repetition of the same thing. And unfortunately, Floyd has said he has learned a lot from Jacob Zuma. So he might be producing his own intelligence reports later on.
And I'm going to stay with that in just a moment. But Prof. Mthatha, when you then look at the MK Party, 7 Secretary Generals later, is this a trigger-happy organization, or are these teething problems, as has been described by some, to be expected for a party that describes itself as still new?
Yes, I cannot help to take over from Prof. Where Prof. Muswana left, to state that, you know, if you've got when the environment is conducive, and here we've got a leader that can one day wakes up and make a decision and no one will confront that leader. And if you've listened carefully to Floyd, he said he's got great respect for President Jacob Zuma, the president of MK. So actually what Floyd have done, Floyd has already resigned himself from MK, although he haven't done that officially, but he does not want to directly confront Jacob Zuma. So for me, it is definitely a party where an individual and those very close to him can take decisions. And in the so-called name of a democratic process, but where it to a large extent has to do with what the leader feels at that particular time. So and hence so many as Secretary Generals a couple of months later.
Mr. Swana, would you say the lessons he's learned go, you know, as far as his decision now to do what we heard on the 16th of December before the MK Party contested the elections, where the former President Jacob Zuma, now the leader of the MK Party, said, I will not be voting for the ANC, but I will be supporting the MK Party. I am not resigning as a member of the ANC. I will be ANC until I die.
Yes, we are back to square one. Zuma invented that concept of a dual membership. It is the most diabolical concept, highly questionable and dubious concept, that you can represent two parties that are in competition in the same election. Bear in mind that all of us now are thinking about 2026 election. In fact, there are even by-elections that are going on, and political parties are contesting municipalities even as we are here. So Floyd is taking another leaf. This is another page from Zuma's book. This is Zuma's invention, and Floyd is giving Zuma his own medicine. This is a cup of the Zuma medicine being given by Floyd Shivambu to Zuma himself.
How does he respond, Prof? Professor Mthatha, how does he respond? I see you are laughing there.
There's a huge difference between Jacob Zuma, even if he uses the same lessons. And I agree with Prof. Muswana there, but the problem is you can't even want to start to equate Floyd Shivambu and Jacob Zuma. And that's why I strongly believe that MK Party within the next 2 or 3 days will come out guns blazing and perhaps even sack Floyd Shivambu without following the disciplinary route.
If they do sack him, Professor Mthatha, what's likely to be the impact, if at all, within the party?
Oh, well, the impact is already, I mean, the damage has already been done. And one of the damages that we've seen, and I mean, it's public knowledge now, is that MK, for the very first time, is one of the parties that have got rid of so many secretary generals. And I remember that is a very key position within a political party. And if you've got such a huge dent within that particular portfolio, that in itself tells you a lot about perhaps how this whole party is being managed and what we can expect going forward.
So, Mr. Swana, he says, right, that the ANC is directionless, calling the EFF a cult. And then he says that when it comes to the MK Party, he respects the former president, but he says that he is surrounded by scoundrels who take advantage of his kindness and gullibility. Your take?
The argument is far-fetched. Floyd spent many years, 10 years, or something of the kind, let's put it like that, fighting the scoundrel called Jacob Zuma in parliament, paid back the money. And there were so many constitutional court cases and decisions against Jacob Zuma. Zuma was a scoundrel in parliament and in the cabinet. When the party was formed, a number of other scoundrels went there to join. People had been impeached, people were in legal problems, including Zuma himself. He's got pending legal cases. Both Zuma and Floyd Shivambu are implicated in the VPS saga as we speak today. Floyd says that the treasurers, national treasurers of MKP, have never resigned. Each one of them was fired unceremoniously, and money is being stolen all the time there, consistently every month. So the Floyd went there as a scoundrel. The founder of the party, Jacob Zuma, was a scoundrel, and it was a party of scoundrels. He has been there. He knew this before he joined. So this is actually disingenuous of Floyd to raise this. The issue of the cult, and he's actually talking about the personality of Julius Malema when he talks about the cult. The cult leader is Julius Malema, according to Floyd. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of the EFF, but I once listened to an interview by Dr. Ndlozi. And Ndlozi said, when we found this organization, when we founded it, we looked among ourselves and we felt that a person was more like Steve Biko, a clear leader among us was Julius Malema. And Floyd says he had another group that he met with and unanimously decided that this man is not fit to lead the party. So we will leave it to the public, and maybe other leaders will emerge with other truths as we go down the road. But at this stage, EFF is more stable than MKP.
What are we to read into this, Prof. Matebesi? Because when one looks at Floyd Shivambu, and this question came up with, during the briefing, that he was in the ANC, then moved to the EFF, then moved to the MK party, now this, and some saying it calls into question his credibility.
No, most definitely, but I'm not surprised by what is happening here. You see, once you've tasted power, it becomes a huge problem with our leaders in South Africa. I mean, look at the many churches, mushrooming of churches that we have in South Africa. And it's the same with our political groupings, our leaders. Our leaders in South Africa don't want to be led. They want to lead, and it's exactly the same situation here facing Floyd Shivambu. And I've heard when your opening remarks, Bongi, when you made all those statements about the intelligence report, action was taken by MK party against Floyd Shivambu. Why all of a sudden is there now talk of consultations and all that? And I also believe that he have already made up his mind, and he perhaps is bigger than the organization. And the question is, the party that he wants so desperately to lead, will he be able to subject himself to the democratic processes of that very same party that he will be forming?
And how do you answer that?
Yes, it's very difficult because, as I've indicated, you also already, he have already defined the nature of our South African politics. Maybe that cult nature does not only subscribe to the EFF, but to most of our political leaders, where they want, as I've indicated, they want to be leaders, and they don't want to subject themselves to democratic processes of any organization. And that's why from time to time you will always find that with a situation where South Africans have not yet mastered or learned the lesson not to identify with individual leaders, but to support the ideologies of the different political parties in this country, then we will not be having situations like this. And don't be surprised that some leaders will flock and join Floyd because it will create another, a window of an opportunity, new positions and all that. But then 3, 4, 6 months later, then decide to leave that new political formation.
Mr. Swana, I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal ball now. How do you see the MK party responding to this one? We've reached out to them to be part of the show, but we're yet to hear from them as to how then are they going to be responding to all of this. What is your crystal ball telling you?
I mean, Zuma has a hand in this. Zuma is going to fire Floyd, finish and clear.
And if he does, in your view, does Floyd, and I ask this, you know, when you look at Floyd's career over time, from the ANC to the EFF to the MK party, where he says in the last 6 months he's learned more than he's learned in the EFF in the 10 years that he was in. Is this a Floyd who's charismatic enough to be able to lead what could potentially be described by some as a home for others that maybe, you know, where they can find solace? Is there enough vibrancy in him to do that?
I am not aware of that vibrancy. Perhaps it's still going to be revealed, but this is going to be a flood of opportunists, including churches and traditional healers. This is going to be something you've never seen before, where science will take the back seat. All sorts of shenanigans are about to unfold, to tell you, to put this thing, this thing is the height of chaos. What we're about to see happening over the next 12 months is the height of chaos. You
agree, Prof. Mthatha?
Yes, most definitely. I mean, if you look at a political landscape, I cannot agree more with Prof. Swana to say that going forward, I will not be surprised that Floyd, as I've indicated, will be attracting people from the different groupings. But for me, will these consultations lead to tangible electoral support? And I don't think he has the political clout to be able to pull that off.
So, if then, in closing, Mr. Swana, if, you know, the leader of the MK party and those who are in the high command continue then to axe those that they say are not simply not working out and all of that, amidst all the claims now of money is being stolen and all of that and whatever, it's obviously a lot of the eyes are now looking towards the local government elections next year. If he continues with his high command on this trajectory of getting rid of those that they say simply do not need to be within the party, what could be the implications of that when it comes to electoral success?
What has happened now is going to reduce the support of MK. This is major. What has happened today is major, and it is going to limit the progress of support to a degree. This protects the ANC, because the ANC has been unable to protect itself from MKP. So Floyd has now launched the protection. Now Floyd and Zuma are going to be fighting over the bone, because they are actually going after the same thing. And that is what is going to help the ANC.
Prof. Mthatha, in about 30 seconds, for you, when you're looking at this particular picture, how do supporters and the voters of the MK party and the members process these developments?
Yeah, well, I've got a completely different view, because MK party is one party with ardent supporters. I mean, a party that have achieved what MK have achieved less than 6 months. I strongly believe that they will be able to maintain their support, but it will definitely, you know, lead to internal confusion in certain ranks within the party.
Let me thank you both for your time. Appreciate it. That was sociologist from the University of the Free State, Professor Mthatha, and political and governance analyst Sandile Swana. Let's take some of your comments as we're asking you, what do you make of Floyd Shivambu's announcement that he will embark on a consultation process, whether or not to form a new political party? Let's take a look at what you are saying. Good evening, Tabela Mezwan and all the viewers. Good evening. What Floyd is doing is exactly what Zuma did. The way I know how influential Floyd is, he can have his party and youth followers. Good night. Skombozo saying, I think he has resigned from the MK but is playing his cards right to be on the safe side. Mohale, greetings. Bongiwe, hi. The reality is that Floyd has now defined himself outside of the MK party. It's only a matter of time before the party terminates his membership. There's no way that he could stay in the party after his allegations against the leadership. He's as good as gone. Mthatha, good evening, Bongiwe. Hi. The decision by Floyd Shivambu to form a new political party is a wise move. He should have known better before joining MKP. Zuma does not want think tankers in his party. Good luck in his new party. Quite interesting that you speak about him defining himself outside of the MK party. This is exactly what we heard from the, the political sphere as well. So certainly a lot of these developments want to watch as we look at what will the MK party do as far as this moment is concerned in its response. And to remind you, we did reach out to the MK party, so still waiting to hear what they are going to do. Let's take a listen to some of your voice notes.
Good evening, Bongi. My name is Langa Maluleke from Merafo. I think Floyd just needs to take a break from politics. He was a member of the ANC. He followed Julius to go form a political party. He decided to follow MK. Now he wants to leave and open up another political party. This does not speak well about him. Besides, in my view, we have many black political parties. We really don't need another one. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Sisbongi. We are living in exciting times indeed. Floyd has been second in command for a long time. I think it's good. Let him be at the helm of leadership, and let's see what will come out of that. I just can't wait to see how things will, transitioned from now until that particular time. Sure.
I can feel the excitement in your voice there as you say exciting time. So it'll be interesting to see these developments. But there is another interesting story, and this is around political party funding. The IEC is holding its symposium. We'll speak to Janet Love, the IEC's Janet Love, in just a moment, just to give you a sense of what happens after this process. How critical is it, especially when you think about the upcoming local government elections? Thanks for staying with us. Finance Minister Enoch Gordongwana has emphasized the need to prioritize public funding for political parties. The minister was speaking at the IEC Political Funding Symposium in Durban, and the aim of the symposium, of course, was to reflect on the success and challenges seen over the last 4 years since the implementation of the Political Party Funding Act. The minister weighing in on whether the IEC should be given more powers to police political party funding, saying the solution should be sought elsewhere. So let's now speak to the IEC's Vice Chairperson, Janet Love. Good evening to you, Ms. Love, and thank you so much for your time. So let's start with the importance of this symposium, as you've concluded, in the context of the upcoming local government elections.
I think that the importance of it in terms of the local government elections was really to be able to hear quite clearly from many of the delegates of a political funding regime at all at the local government level. That's something that was raised also by the minister as well as by a number of the speakers. So insofar as the local government elections are concerned, I think that is the key concern. However, the focus of the meeting was more around what have we achieved and where have there been gaps, challenges, and what maybe do we need to ask the policymakers and the legislators to give a rethink about? Because it's certainly not something that we can make changes to. We really do need to put in the hands of the parliamentarians the kinds of challenges that we face.
And as we have this conversation, just, an apology to our viewers. I know that the line keeps breaking up somewhat, but we can make sense of what you're saying now. It seems to be improving. But I wonder then, when you were having these particular discussions, and there are, of course, some who have been saying over time, when you do this reflection, that maybe the transactional nature of politics also needs to be looked at a much more deeper level, with some people concerned that those who are funding these political parties in some of the cases may also lead to the political parties' capture. And I wonder if this did come up at all?
Very sharply and in a number of different ways. I think, first of all, the first it is that we do have a multi-party democracy fund, and at this point many private institutions have chosen not to make their contributions to the through that, but have chosen instead to support individual political parties. And there was some questioning as to, is this the best way to go? Should corporate particularly listed companies not be encouraged or asked to, directed rather, to make such funding available through the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. That is a policy issue, and it really is something that needs to be debated. I think the second thing was just in relation to the extent of report and the nature of the transparency that the electorate really needs in order to be able to understand, first of all, how the party governs its own affairs, but secondly also what the party, who is behind the party finances, and what as a consequence of that could be the impact on the party in terms of some kind of dependency on sources of funding that are outside the public purse and also outside their own membership.
And the Inclusive Society, for example, in its statement, it says there appears to be a discrepancy in what appears to be what parties are declaring and the value on full display in the field, especially when it comes to electoral contests. How then do you begin to also reflect on this issue as you now look at the work that lies ahead?
Again, a couple of issues were raised in that regard. At the moment, within the framework of the existing law, the parties report donations on a quarterly basis. But in fact, the scrutiny applied to whether or not all of those reports amount to or equal the expenditure from the party, that assessment is very dependent on an examination of the audit. And the audit, as we all know, comes after the fact. In reality, probably as much as 18 months after the end of the financial year. So the election by that stage has come and gone. So that is one kind of fault line. The second issue is that in order to be able to carry out the necessary monitoring, the necessary investigations, the necessary enforcement, there is a lot of there are a lot of capabilities and resources required. But over and above that, a lot of emphasis was placed on the need for very workable and realistic, meaningful relationships to be established with other institutions. In particular, the Auditor General at the moment in the existing legislation may audit political parties, but they receive public funds. So even the minister was saying that the Auditor General must audit all of the political parties, in which case that would be one kind of safeguard. Secondly, you have a situation where the possibility for working with Institute Intelligence Center, the Public Protector, would also give much more capacity to the IEC in a way that really does enable a substantive investigation to be carried out by the IEC or even by these other institutions or some combination.
All right, let me thank you so much for your time, and that line letting us down somewhat, but at least we're able to get a sense of what exactly was the crux of the discussions there at the symposium. That is the IEC's Vice Chairperson, Janet Love. Remember, we are asking you questions tonight about your thoughts on Floyd Shivambu's announcement that he will embark on a consultation process for a new party formation. He says he's still thinking about it, maybe not, but some have said that possibly this could signal that he's made up his mind. So let's listen to some of your voice notes.
Good evening, I'm Tapelo. I stay in Soweto. What a great news which we have received today, most especially for us youth. I have a high hope on our future president, Mr. Shivambu, and I'm so glad that what a smart man, what a smart move. We are here, we are waiting for your signal. We are only waiting for you to announce the new party next week.
Sam, I am very much disappointed. Knowing Floyd as he was during his heydays, a shift to another party has turned him in a novice. How do you belong to MKP while you are making a call to the public to help you form a new party? But one thing which impressed me the most is that he never cut the bridges between him and MKP. One problem with Floyd is that he is too cocky and he is always right. Bye-bye.
Mthatha Sam, always good to hear from you. And it's interesting to hear some of your thoughts there. And another story that has been developing for some time now are the developments around Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, the Minister of Higher Education, and we'll continue to speak about this until we get a sense as to understand exactly what's going on there. So the names have been sent to the portfolio committee, but then there's still some unhappiness around that. We'll tell you why in just a moment. Now, the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education has expressed concern that it was misled by Minister Nobuhle Nkabane about the composition of the panel responsible for recommending appointments to the boards of SETAs, among others. Minister Nkabane releasing the names of the panel that she says helped her decide on these appointments, and further naming Advocate Terry Mutau as the chairperson of the panel, saying that he did not attend the meetings. But now Mutau has rejected these particular claims. Let's now speak to one of the members of the Higher Education Portfolio Committee, that is Tshepo Lo. Tshepo, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. So when one was listening to the start of the committee meeting yesterday, a lot of unhappiness about the names that would have been submitted to yourselves as the portfolio committee, as you've been asking for the names of this panel. But also now, when one looks at the fact that there are names that we still don't know, how is the committee processing all this information?
No, thank you very much. Good evening to the viewers at home. Let me also greet you, Bongiwe. And I think it is quite a significant issue that needs us to clarify, to say that we are quite much concerned as the Portfolio Committee of Higher Education, because you would recall that we had a Portfolio Committee previously where we would have cautioned and asked the Minister to submit a panel. And indeed, she did submit the panel, but in a bit where we received the submission of the panel, the members of the Portfolio Committee could have deliberated onto the issues and onto the panel. And we could have realized that there is misinformation that was submitted to Parliament with regard to the integrity and the transparency of the panel. So the committee, through its deliberations, could have resolved to say that because we need to get the Minister to appear in the Portfolio Committee to come and clarify the misinformation that we could have received as a Portfolio Committee immediately after the submission of the names. Speaking of the misinformation, because primarily we have identified that As previously the minister could have said, she did tell us in the previous portfolio committee that the panel is way out of the department. It does not consist of anyone from the department. But upon receival of the panel's names, and then we realized that those people who are there are an extension to the ministry of the department. So it became quite concerning and doubtful in terms of the transparency and the independency of the process that could have led to the appointment of the panel. So you would also recall that there was a concerning issue, like we could have said, of the chairpersons who was purported to could have chaired the panel, but the chairperson did write and say no. He did not share the session. So, we're raising all of this because Parliament expects us, as per Section 4, subsection 2, it expects us to be transparent and must give accountability and give feedback to the people. So we expect that the minister must appear, and immediately when she has appeared, we will therefore compile a report and get findings, and therefore have a way forward in dealing with the issue. So it is quite significant and important that we take note that the minister will appear, will bring a report, and the public must know, because we would not want to erode the public trust in the parliament or in any other governmental institution. So it is quite significant that we deal with it accordingly.
So, when I'm reading the letter from the chairperson, as you've touched on it, he says, I did not assist you or your office in reviewing and assessing the nominations received for the appointment. I did not participate in this process. I neither received nor saw any information relating to the process, if any, was in fact followed. You've alluded to this, and this is Advocate Terry Mutau that we're speaking about, who was touted as the chairperson of this particular committee. One wonders if the minister was able to then tell you all this information that she gave you as the portfolio committee, and now things are here where they are. Who do you think she's protecting, if at all?
It is a matter of accountability and transparency. I don't think the minister is protecting anyone. What becomes quite significant as the portfolio committee is to await the minister to come and give us responses. It is quite critical not to assume, and I'm referring to this because we need to be precise as Parliament and would need to receive a report. As it says in Parliament, we are privy to get a report from the executive or for any other official as per the parliamentary rules, so that we are able to digest the issue. Like I've alluded also, we are going to have to first engage, deal with the report and deal with the findings, and then tell the public on the issues. As we have said, we would have realized that we are doubting some information to the independency and transparency, but it's only fair if we get the minister, the deputy ministers and the DG to appear so that they can come and clarify all of the questions, and then we can be able to have a report and inform the public about it.
So what can you do then? And I ask this because when one reads the Zondo Commission's report, for example, Parliament came into sharp focus. Its lack of oversight as an institution came into sharp focus. Thus, now South Africans looking to see what will Parliament do if then it is found that the answers you get from the minister and her entourage are not satisfactory. What powers will you then be able to invoke as a committee to be able to ensure there's accountability here?
Well, Act 2004 of the Powers and Privilege of Parliament seeks to say that we are in position to summon, investigate the misleading statements, or either the person who's going to be summoned must be able to give a better response on a better version that seeks not to put him under the powers privilege. So it is quite significant that we'll apply the rules accordingly if we are going to find any misinformation. But if ever the minister is going to be able to give concrete and precise information, then we'll be able to go and give precise feedback to the public. Hence, I've made mention to say what becomes quite important is for the public and the South Africans to await the Parliament to meet the minister, deputy minister and the DG, so that we are able to find the report and find everything that we have requested, and then immediately when we are done, we are going to be able to deal with the reports and give it to the public, and the public will know what we are going to take as Parliament as remedies or whatever that is going to be coming to the Parliament of South Africa. So we will rely on the response of the minister and the DG and deputy minister so that we are able to take actions in terms of that.
Tsepo, pardon me for coming in there. How much of the answers are you still hoping to get? Because if she was not able to give you answers that are satisfactory up to this point, if she then told you before that the people that make up this panel are not within the department, then boom, They are these names that are touted. They are people that are actually working for the department. And then you would have then had to wait for these names because we all saw what is playing out in the public domain. So how confident are you as a committee that you will get these answers that you're looking for?
One of the major concerns that we've also identified, that the reason that we are saying let's await the minister to come and report, it is with regard to the reduction of the information of the panelists, which the members of parliament have said they are quite concerned, they were doubtful on the information that was not sufficient. So it is only important if we go and get sufficient information to look onto the qualifications and the suitability of those people, that were they indeed suitable enough to have served in the panel. So we wouldn't want to preempt and would want to get the entirety of the reports. And then as we make a determination as parliament, we'll have to make determination based on precise facts and based on what we're given. So we're also puzzled and we're also doubtful on many other issues. But it's only important if these issues are clarified by the minister and the team, so that we're able to have a proper determination as to, because we're already saying we are quite concerned on the number of issues that I've mentioned. But to get a determination, to get clarity on the issues is quite important. If only parliament makes the minister to appear, it is only part of the oversight and it is only part of our role, so that we can refer to the relevant bodies if we are going to find fault onto the procedures or the process that happened to have taken place through the panel that was appointed by the minister.
So Tsepo, let's see what happens when she eventually does come to appear before the committee. I'm sure South Africans are waiting with keen interest to see what happens there. That is the Higher Education Portfolio Committee member, Tsepo. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, another story that has been developing, it's around the Eastern Cape, where the provincial government today observed a day of mourning following the death of 92 people in the devastating floods in the Mthatha area last week. A memorial service was held at the King Sabatata College in Mthatha this morning, and Eastern Cape Cooperative Governance MEC Zola Williams joins us now for more. And MEC, of course, as we're going to be getting into this conversation, there's still a lot of concern about what exactly is the latest when it comes to the death toll. You think about the families themselves that are still waiting to hear of the developments around their loved ones, and there are still family members who would have been present at that, memorial a little earlier on, a day of mourning as it was described earlier on, but they still don't know, where the remains of their loved ones are. So let's speak now to the MEC who joins us this evening. MEC, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start with the latest when it comes to the death toll. Has there been any changes? MEC Williams, are you able to hear us?
Pardon me, can you repeat, Bongiwe, please?
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. I can hear you now. MEC, let's just start with the death toll. Has there been any change?
Well, good evening, Bongiwe, and good evening to the viewers. No, there's no change on the death toll. We still have 92 as of now.
And when you look at the families themselves still waiting on news on their loved ones, are you then able to put a number for us as far as that is concerned, and how many people have also been identified at the mortuary?
Well, there are 3 people that are still outstanding, and almost 86 has been identified already through all our mortuaries. And we have got outstanding about 5 to be claimed by families, and we are making a clarion call for all those families who's not aware about the whereabouts of their next of kin to please come to the mortuary in Mthatha to identify such bodies.
So, MEC, when one looks at the help that you have on the ground and the assistance that you're also giving to the families that would have been impacted, thousands, in fact, more than 1,000 homes destroyed and all of that, but it is worrying that while you yourselves as government are actually embarking on this process, the gift of the giver says that there are people that, were threatening their members as far as the water issues are concerned, describing it as some water mafia. What do you know about that, and what have you done?
Well, that was only one incident, Bongiwe, that we were informed about. And we immediately instructed our police to respond to that particular situation. And ever since the police took action, those incidents have actually disappeared. And as you know, there are opportunists who would want to derail the community whilst it is still distraught to do negative things. But fortunately, that has been now be managed and is under control.
How far are you when it comes to the issues of those that need to rebuild? And I know that there has been some land that has been identified. Take us through the process that unfolds there.
Yes, 3 land parcels have been identified already, and we're working together with other government departments, your human settlements, your agriculture, and rural development. And traditional leaders are also included. So we are planning to first identify in all the areas that are below the flood line. We want our town planners to immediately categorize those areas in terms of our zoning schemes as the red line zones where nobody should ever construct a property or a house there. And then in the matter of human settlements, we will be building few TRUs to accommodate those that are in need of housing. But furthermore, permanent structures will be coming on as we look at the status of those in terms of their beneficiary identification and how they should benefit in the government schemes available in human settlement.
How long are you looking to do this for?
I think we will be a bit quicker. The TRUs in the next week or 2 should be standing, but the process of looking at the beneficiaries, and it may take 3 months to identify the suitability of those communities in terms of government subsidies, and from there on we will be starting with the construction. But it's a process that we will work together through the district development model to try and deliver with speed to such communities.
So just before I let you go briefly then, let's talk about the issue of the early warning systems, because that is another issue I'm sure your department is now looking into, because the issues of communication around that have also been raised again, and not only for your province, but the province of KwaZulu-Natal and other provinces across the country. What are you doing to speedily resolve that and ensure that the message gets to everyone in time?
Well, I think, Bongi, we just need to improve our systems, because we do get early warning systems from the South African Weather Service. And our protocol is that once we get such early warning system, we then dispatch those to all the district disaster centers who have protocols to take those to social media platforms first, secondly, to community radio stations, and thirdly, to ward councillors and ward committees and all the community development workers to inform the communities. But we can only improve on the systems we have so that we become more efficient as government to ensure that our people get information as soon as practically possible. But also we are employing IT systems that will help us to be able to deliver an expedient service so that we can save lives in the process.
MEC, thank you so much. Appreciate your update this evening. That was the Eastern Cape Cooperative Governance MEC Zolile Williams, and it wraps up Face the Nation for this week. Thank you so much for keeping us company. See you again soon.